On the back of the president's position on the witchcraft one, about private members' bill or something, there are people who are raising questions about this because it is also a private members' bill.
Yeah.
And they're asking whether the same reasons the president has given as to why he is unable to assent to this bill will apply to the LGBTQ.
Randy, yes. I hold the view that Mr. Speaker and the Parliamentary Service should take the president to court.
Why?
Because the president, we need to get a definition, a determination of what the position of the law is. The president has his interpretation. The Speaker and Parliament have our interpretation. But per our Constitution, it is the Supreme Court that gives a determination of what the position of the law is. Because our reading, in fact, this is not the reading, and that's why I didn't just say the Speaker, I said Parliament. Because this position of Parliament was actually established by Professor Mike Eronokwe. That Article 108 cannot mean that members of Parliament cannot initiate legislation. Because there will be financial cost. Because if you want to say that, then even the Attorney General's memo is time and material of the state in contributing to a private member's bill. It cannot be that the framers of the Constitution who allowed for private members' bill would then say that you cannot have any cost whatsoever to the state. And so the reading of 108 is that private members cannot initiate a bill that has financial implications, either by way of imposition of a tax or a levy on the people. It's clear. And it also goes ahead to then say that the determination of whether it imposes a financial cost or burden is the prerogative of the person presiding. Now, that then means, and that is why when you do a private members bill, the first private members bill was passed under Professor Mike Eronokwe. He determines.
Did the president sign it? Or he didn't need presidential
He didn't need
assent?
presidential access,
Okay.
yes. That didn't need presidential accent because there was something on road traffic things by Kwame Agboja and co. So that didn't need presidential accent. Now, what you do with your private members bill is you submit it to the Speaker for his approval because he needs to exercise that prerogative of whether it attracts financial implications. So we do that. When the person presiding decides that that bill does not impose financial implications, then it goes through the whole process. Now, you have the Attorney General take part in the witchcraft bill, for example. Bring his memo, take part in the conversations, and then Parliament passes it. Then you turn around and then say that, have the president say that, on the advice of the same Attorney General who took part in the processes for his approval, they are raising 108. And what is the 108? That there will be incarceration, possible incarcerations. Now, Parliament under Michael Quay established that for the purposes of private members' bills, things like incarceration, things like prosecution will not be deemed to be financial cost to the state. Because one, you are not building...
It's in the hands of Parliament.
Yes. One, you are not building new prisons for persons who will be prosecuted and convicted under the private members' bill.
The state will spend 180 pesos a day on them.
Yes, but Randy, the point we are making here is, in that case, if you want to do that kind of interpretation, there can never be a private members' bill that will impose any cost. And so that in itself flies against the letter and spirit of the Constitution. And that's why we are saying, and that's why I'm urging Parliament and Mr. Speaker to challenge the position of the President by going to the Supreme Court. Because you see, we are interpreting based on what we understand the Constitution to say. The President also is interpreting based on what, but are we saying that the President has the power to review a constitutional mandate and prerogative that has been given to the Speaker?
Well, that's not what the President has done.
That's not what he's done. Anyway,
I'm not saying the President is right.
No, Randy, I get it. But the President is citing Article 108 as the basis.
His understanding of 108.
Yes, but
yes.
Randy,
on the advice
of the Attorney General,
of his legal advice.
But that 108 says that and you have a constitution here. I want to read the exact words. 108 says that the prerogative to make that determination is with the person presiding in Parliament, not anybody outside of Parliament. And that's why I think that we should go to the Supreme Court. Let the Supreme Court distinguish 108 for all of us.
No.
If the Supreme Court...
there may be... What you want to go and do at the Supreme Court is to ask the Supreme Court to declare the position of the President as unconstitutional on the basis
that may be a dangerous slope to take. The Supreme Court, as it's composed, may be afraid to go against the president. So let us go on 108. If they determine what 108 is
to interpret
it, once they interpret it, it will then give us a clear understanding of whether the president's position is tenable or the speaker's position is tenable. Do you get the point I'm making?
Right.
I don't want it to be that we are going for the Supreme Court to, because look, this is Ghana. If you ask the Supreme Court to take on the presidency, I'm not too confident in what the outcome may be. I think that we should go with 108.
Yeah.
Let them interpret 108 to us. When they interpret it, then everybody is clear in our minds what 108 is.
So 108,
yes,
settlement of financial matters.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Says Parliament shall not, unless the bill is introduced or the motion is introduced by or on behalf of the President, A, proceed upon a bill including an amendment to a bill that, in the opinion of the person presiding, makes provisions for any of the following. I, the imposition of taxation or the alteration of taxation otherwise than by reduction. Or II, the imposition of a charge on the consolidated fund or other public funds of Ghana, or the alteration of any such charge otherwise than by reduction. Or III, the payment, issue or withdrawal from the consolidated fund or other public funds of Ghana of any money is not charged on the consolidated fund, or any increase in the amount of that payment, issue or withdrawal. Or IV, the composition or remission of any debt due to the government of Ghana. Or B, proceed upon a motion including an amendment to a motion, the effect of which, in the opinion of the person presiding, would be to make provision for any of the purposes specified in paragraph A of this article. So your point you're making is that throughout 108, the determination of whether anything infringes on this article is the prerogative of the person presiding. And so, in your view, if the person presiding thinks that it is okay, the person who has to assent to the bill cannot refuse to assent on the basis that he disagrees with the position of the speaker.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So it's not that critical.
Yes.
So I think that the president's position is tenable, because you talked about yes, we're not building new jail houses.
We're not recruiting new police prosecutors.
Yes, we're not recruiting. So all those are constant. But then you made the point already that their material time is cost to the state. So that is cost. And when people are incarcerated, the cost spent on them to keep them, whatever the amount is, also is cost. So you have increased.
But then we'll be getting into the realm of absurdity.
Right.
You know why? Yeah, because somebody will say that even the A4 paper that will be used to print the memo is cost to the state. And yes.
And the president's time to
it's cost to the state.
Or not assent.
So then we should then scrap private members.
So the point, that's why I asked if the exceptions that he says Speaker Professor Okwe are captured in there, because that then will give a certain direction.
So there's a precedent.
Yes.
Yeah. But so I think that it's open for interpretation, and I think that by and large the Supreme Court can explain that for us. But for me, if I read it, I think I'm more tended
because
to agree.
It appears there's a disagreement between the Speaker and the President.
Right.
That the Speaker believes that he's on all fours with the Constitution. The President thinks otherwise. Now, the President is not saying that I am stopping you from doing what you are doing in Parliament. But after you've done what you are doing within your domain, he says that I cannot assent to it because I disagree
that it
with
violates
with your position on the process.
Yes.
In this case, how do we resolve it?
Yeah.
Perhaps the court.
For the courts, yeah. But for me, I think in my mind,
and that's why I asked the question about the LGBTQI one as well, because people are trying to establish some parallels. That look, this same private members bill is the same thing. There are even people who are saying that is the president not setting the tone.
Exactly.
To then say that look, in the same spirit with which I refuse to assent to the witchcraft one, I also refuse to assent to this one.
This one.
Yeah.